Before we begin, if you love powerful stories of courage, kindness, and unforgettable human connections, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Now imagine this. A former U.S. Army scout rides into the Arizona mountains expecting an ordinary day. Instead, he discovers a badly injured Apache woman left to die in a lonely canyon. Saving her could cost him his life, but walking away isn't an option. What happened after her tribe found him would change his destiny forever. This is an unforgettable story of bravery, honor, and humanity. Let's get started. On a blazing summer afternoon, the Arizona sun hung low over the jagged mountains, turning every rock and cactus into glowing shades of gold and orange. Former U.S. Army Scout Ethan Carter guided his horse along a narrow trail that few people dared to travel. After years of military service, he had traded crowded cities for the peace of the American frontier. His days were now spent tracking wild horses, repairing old ranch fences, and enjoying the silence of nature. The mountains had become his closest companions, teaching him patience, awareness, and respect for every living creature that called the desert home. Ethan knew the land better than almost anyone in the region. Every canyon, dried creek, and hidden path held memories of long rides and difficult seasons. While searching for a small herd of mustangs that had wandered into the high country, something unusual caught his attention. A thick column of gray smoke twisted into the bright blue sky from beyond a rocky ridge. Wildfires were rare after recent rainfall, and there were no ranches nearby. His instincts, sharpened by years in the Army, warned him that something was terribly wrong, so he urged his horse forward. As Ethan climbed over the rocky slope, the smell of burned wood mixed with dust filled the air. Broken tree branches and deep hoof prints covered the ground as though several riders had passed through, only moments earlier. The silence felt unnatural. Even the birds had stopped singing. Near the edge of the canyon lay the remains of a small campfire, still glowing beneath scattered ashes. Torn blankets, broken saddlebags, and abandoned supplies suggested a violent struggle had taken place. Ethan carefully examined the scene, realizing whoever had been here had left in great haste. A sudden sound echoed through the canyon. It was the frightened cry of a horse somewhere below the cliffs. Ethan quickly secured his own horse and carefully climbed toward the noise. Loose rocks rolled beneath his boots as he descended into the narrow passage. Hidden among the boulders was a beautiful chestnut horse struggling to stand. Its saddle had been torn apart, and fresh cuts covered its side. A few yards away, partially hidden beneath fallen branches and dust, lay a young Apache woman, completely unconscious and badly injured. Ethan rushed to her side without hesitation. Her breathing was weak but steady, and a deep cut across her shoulder had stained her, traditional buckskin clothing with blood. Bruises covered her arms, showing signs of a desperate struggle. Nearby, arrows lay scattered beside broken rifles, proving that armed men had attacked her. Ethan quietly searched the surrounding cliffs, expecting the attackers to return at any moment. The canyon remained silent, but every instinct told him danger was still close. Leaving her behind was impossible, no matter what risks waited ahead. Using skills learned during military rescue missions, Ethan gently checked her injuries and wrapped the worst wound with clean cloth from his saddlebag. He gave the frightened horse water before carefully lifting the injured woman into his arms. The steep climb back to the trail tested every ounce of his strength, yet he refused to stop. Once he reached his horse, he secured her safely across the saddle and began the slow journey toward his remote ranch cabin, several miles away through rough desert country. Dark clouds gathered above the mountains as Ethan rode home. The hot afternoon suddenly turned cold as powerful winds swept across the valley, carrying dust through the air. Thunder echoed across the cliffs, followed by flashes of lightning that lit the distant peaks. Rain soon poured down in heavy sheets, turning dusty trails into slippery paths. Ethan covered the unconscious woman with his thick canvas coat, shielding her from the storm while guiding his horse carefully through the dangerous terrain. Reaching the cabin before nightfall became his only priority. By the time Ethan reached the ranch, darkness had completely covered the valley. His weathered cabin stood alone beside a small stream, surrounded by old cottonwood trees that bent beneath the powerful wind. He quickly carried the young woman inside and placed her on the only bed. The room was simple but warm, filled with handmade furniture, shelves of books, old military photographs, and supplies collected during years of living alone. He lit the fireplace, boiled clean water, and prepared everything needed to treat her injuries before exhaustion could overcome him. Working carefully through the night, Ethan cleaned every wound and removed tiny pieces of stone trapped beneath her skin. Years earlier, Army medics had taught him how to save lives in difficult conditions, and those lessons returned naturally. He brewed herbal tea from desert plants known for reducing fever and placed cool cloths across her forehead. Every few minutes he checked her, breathing, quietly hoping infection had not already taken hold. Outside, thunder shook the cabin while rain pounded the roof with relentless force, making sleep impossible. Hours passed as the storm continued without mercy. Ethan remained seated beside the fireplace, watching over the injured stranger while adding more wood to keep the room warm. He wondered who she was, why armed men had attacked her, and what secret had led to such violence deep within the Arizona wilderness. Although he had chosen a peaceful life after leaving the military, trouble had unexpectedly arrived at his doorstep. Still, he felt no regret. Saving another human life had simply been the right thing to do, regardless of the consequences. Just before sunrise, the fierce storm finally drifted beyond the mountains, leaving the desert calm once again. Soft golden light entered the cabin through the windows as the young Apache woman slowly opened her eyes. Confused and frightened, she instinctively searched for danger before noticing Ethan quietly sitting nearby with a cup of fresh water. Fear filled her expression, but it slowly faded as she realized her wounds had been treated with care. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Neither realized that this simple act of compassion had already begun a journey that would change both of their lives forever. The first rays of sunlight spread across the Arizona mountains, painting the rugged cliffs with shades of gold. Ethan Carter had barely finished feeding his horses when he noticed movement beyond the ranch fence. Dozens of Apache riders emerged silently from the morning mist, their horses moving with calm discipline. They formed a wide circle around the cabin without raising their weapons or speaking a single word. The peaceful silence felt far more intimidating than shouting or threats. Ethan immediately realized they had come for the young woman resting inside his cabin, and he prepared himself to face whatever judgment awaited him. Years in the U.S. Army had taught Ethan never to panic when surrounded. Instead of reaching for the rifle hanging beside the cabin door, he deliberately stepped outside with empty hands raised where everyone could see them. His calm posture showed he had no intention of fighting. The Apache warriors watched every movement carefully, their expressions impossible to read. Some carried bows, while others held traditional spears, but none made the first move. Ethan stood quietly beneath the warm morning sun, determined to explain everything honestly, even if the truth placed his own life in danger. Inside the cabin, the injured young woman slowly woke after hearing horses outside. Though still weak from her injuries, she immediately recognized the familiar voices of her people. She carefully stood and walked toward the doorway, supported by Ethan's shoulder. As soon as the Apache warrior saw her alive, relief spread across many of their faces. Several riders lowered their weapons, while older tribal members exchanged grateful glances. She stepped forward, despite the pain in her injured shoulder, and calmly began telling them exactly how Ethan had found her alone in the canyon and saved her. The young woman explained that a ruthless gang of outlaw treasure hunters had attacked her while searching for sacred Apache land rumored to contain hidden riches. They believed ancient tribal sites concealed valuable artifacts and precious metals, caring nothing for the history or traditions they destroyed. She had escaped after a desperate chase through the mountains, but was thrown from her frightened horse during the storm. Without Ethan's help, she admitted she would never have survived a freezing night or the serious wounds she had suffered. Every warrior listened carefully without interrupting a single word she spoke. When her story ended, complete silence settled over the ranch. Even the wind seemed to pause among the cottonwood trees. Then, an elderly Apache chief slowly rode forward on a magnificent gray horse. His weathered face reflected wisdom earned through many difficult years, and his calm eyes remained fixed on Ethan. After studying him for several long moments, the chief climbed down from his horse and approached without fear. Instead of anger, he placed one hand over his heart and respectfully thanked Ethan for protecting one of their own when he had every reason to walk away. The chief explained that among his people, courage meant far more than strength in battle. True courage was shown by risking personal safety to help someone with no expectation of reward. Such kindness, he said, created a bond, stronger than fear or hatred. Many outsiders viewed the Apache only through old stories filled with conflict, yet their traditions honored loyalty, compassion, and respect, above all else. Ethan listened quietly, humbled by the chief's words. He had never expected gratitude. Helping someone in need had simply been the only choice his conscience would allow him to make. After a brief conversation among the tribal elders, the chief extended an invitation unlike any Ethan had ever imagined. He asked Ethan to visit their hidden mountain village as an honored guest. Very few outsiders had ever received such trust, and those who had were remembered with great respect. Ethan hesitated only for a moment before accepting. He secured his ranch, saddled his horse, and followed the Apache, riders through narrow mountain trails known only to those who had lived on the land for generations. Every mile revealed breathtaking landscapes hidden from ordinary travelers. The journey led through towering cliffs, crystal-clear streams, and peaceful forests untouched by modern development. Along the way, Ethan witnessed the deep connection the Apache people shared with nature. They wasted nothing, respected every animal they hunted, and treated the mountains as living ancestors rather than property to be claimed. Children greeted the returning riders with joyful smiles, while elders welcomed Ethan with cautious curiosity instead of suspicion. Although he came from a completely different background, no one treated him as an enemy. Instead, they judged him solely by the kindness he had shown during someone else's darkest hour. During the following days, Ethan experienced traditions that changed his understanding of the American West forever. Tribal craftsmen demonstrated remarkable woodworking and leatherworking skills passed down through generations. Storytellers gathered around evening fires to preserve the history of their ancestors, teaching younger members the importance of honor, family, and courage. The woman Ethan had rescued gradually recovered, and their friendship grew through quiet conversations about loss, hope, and the importance of protecting the land they both loved. Ethan realized that true wealth could never be measured by money, land, or hidden treasure buried beneath the mountains. When the time finally came for Ethan to return home, the chief presented him with a beautifully handcrafted necklace carved from stone gathered within the sacred mountains. It was not payment for saving a life, but a lasting symbol of friendship and trust between two different worlds. As Ethan rode back toward his lonely ranch beneath the wide Arizona sky, he carried something far more valuable than gold. He had earned the respect of an entire community and discovered that genuine compassion could overcome fear, prejudice, and generations of misunderstanding. From that unforgettable journey forward, Ethan's life would never be the same again.